AskReddit. What was most unexpected occasion that led to you having sex? NSFW. Was walking home from the bar through a quiet neighborhood. A very cute girl was sitting on her front step and asked me if I knew what time it was. I answered with, "It's pretty late. You should probably be heading to bed." To my surprise, she responded with, "You're probably right. Want to join me?" I thought she was joking. She wasn't. My brother was in a car accident. I ended up hooking up with one of the witnesses a few hours later. My bro was a touch salty about it. I'm the one that was in the accident, damn it. The first date I went out on with my fiancée, she was hesitant to end the night on a kiss, which led me to believe that she would like to take things slow. I was fine with that. I like slow. Slow is good. On the third date we were kissing in my bed. I'm a goofball and I tell a lot of jokes and get the idea to go for one of my old standby jokes that always gets a good laugh. I ask her if she wants to play fire truck and begin to slide my hand up her thigh, telling her that when she wants me to stop, just say red light. The joke is supposed to be that fire trucks don't stop for red lights. But she doesn't say red light, and we have sex instead. And it's fine, because sex is fine, and being engaged is also fine. But I didn't get to do that joke, and that really pisses me off. A friend of mine was over. We'd been friends for years, and while I found her attractive, never thought about her romantically. We were discussing types we like, and she basically told me hers is the opposite of me. I didn't take it as an insult. That's her choice, man. Anyway, an hour later I'm banging her on my bedroom floor. Honestly, gun to my head, I can't remember exactly what I said in that hour, but I must have spit the game of my life. Never went anywhere. We remained friends. She's now happily married and has kids, and I'm with an SO of 5 years. I was a third party member of a car crash. A car crashed into the car behind me, which slightly bumped into my car. The car behind me was like half destroyed from how fast the car behind them was going. Turned out one of the people in the car behind us was a girl I was friends with in secondary school, or maybe before, but it was around years 9 to 13. I don't remember. We got out, and she seemed to be in a state of shock, so I just let her hug me to calm down, and I hugged her back. I gave her and her friends a ride to each of their homes. As she was still in shock, the last one of her friends still in shock, and since we were good friends back in school, I dropped her off last as we talked on the way home. Well, I talked at first, and as she started calming down she started talking back. When I dropped her off she was mostly out of shock, but asked me to walk her to her door. She unlocked her door, and I was about to leave after saying goodbye. She realized no one was home and wanted me to stay for a little longer because she was still a little scared. I said sure, as we could catch up more. She found a note saying her parents went out on a date and wouldn't be home until late, so we were 40 minutes into talking and she's completely fine now. We loved catching up and missed each other's company. As you're probably assuming, one thing led to another, with her subtlety moving closer to me and laying on me to relax and whatnot. We caught up a lot, and I didn't leave her place until like 8 hours later, like 15 minutes before her parents arrived back home. We each have SOs now, we are dating, but we are still good friends. I can tell you guys the time I almost lost my virginity in a pretty unexpected way. Almost. Younger me, clueless to everything female. No GF yet, nothing happened yet. Walking home from campus. I was going to drop my bag and get my butt downtown to the skate shop. Get me some new kicks with my B-Day money. At the time DC Shoes USA were all the rage. There's this girl from class that all the guys are crazy about. She's kinda tomboyish and sporty. Let's call her Lara. As I'm walking I hear someone call me by my name. Turn around. It's Lara. I wait for her, wondering why in hell would she ever speak to me. Hey Huck Silver. What are you up to? Hey Lara. I'm going downtown to get me some new shoes at the skate shop. Oh, is it that store Big Punch? I was wanting to go there too. Can I come with you? She's weirdly handsy and all smiles. I panic and say yeah, that's the one. I guess you can come with me. Yeah. So she then tells me that we just have to swing by her house so she can change and then we can go. In the elevator of her building she tells me that her parents aren't home. All jiggly. This sheet is going miles over my head. I'm not putting 2 and 2 together at all. We get to her floor, get in the apartment. She tells me to wait in her room. I'm standing awkwardly in her bedroom looking out her window thinking I don't wanna miss the chance of getting my new sneakers. Suddenly I hear her say, in this super flirty voice, "Huck Silver." I turn around. She's standing in the doorway, but naked, doing this curved back thing, legs crossed, smiling at me. I look at her for a split second. That for me lasted an eternity. I swallow a choke and I say, "So, we are not going to Big Punch?" Her smile instantly fades as she covers herself behind the door. A few seconds after she comes back dressed. By then I understood what I had missed and I try to make small talk. She asked me to leave. One summer, I lived with 7 other college co-eds, 4 guys, 3 girls, at Lake Tahoe. We raged every night, but after weeks of non-stop partying, I wanted a break, especially since I worked construction during the day. So all my roommates go out. At about 6 o'clock, I get a call from a girl, but she called the wrong number. We laughed and she sounded really cute, so we talked for about 30 minutes. She had just arrived from Florida for vacation and was trying to call the pizza place. Had a great talk. Told her to call me later if she wanted to and never expected to hear from her again. Surprisingly, she calls around midnight. We talked for another hour really flirting. Eventually, I convinced her to let me come pick her up. She had to sneak out of her father's vacation home and meet me down the street. She told me she was blonde with green eyes, but I fully expected that she would be a pig. I was blown away when I picked her up and she was an absolute knockout, way out of my league. One of the prettiest girls I've ever been with, and she was sweet and shy at first. I took her back to my place and we messed around all night long. Multiple times, every position, etc. One of the best experiences of my life. All because of a wrong call and my decision to stay home. TLDR, wrong number leads to great sex with gorgeous girl. In college I was at a dive bar with friends. 2 girls walk in with grimaces on their face, all pissy about something. Not being very experienced with bars, I said to my friend, "Why would you even come to this place if you are going to be like that?" I turned around and one of the girls was standing right behind me, staring at me. I immediately apologized and offered to buy drinks. Woke up in her apartment the next morning to Dawson's Creek rerun playing on TV. Was home alone one Friday night and decided instead of drinking by myself I'll get a Uber into downtown and try to make some new friends. Got in the Uber to meet a nice girl the same age as me. She asked what my plans were if I was gonna meet up with people. Told her I was by myself and just going to see what the night brought me. We had a really good conversation about music and friends on the 15-minute ride. When we arrived at the destination we exchanged phone number. I asked when she was gonna be off as we should make plans the very same night. Since she was an Uber she made her own hours and completed a couple more trips before texting me that she's off. We walked to a local co-op throwing a party where we had a few drinks and eventually found our way back to my place where the rest is history. TLDR, took a gamble going out alone, made a friend. Went to buy a certain cereal. I wandered in 2 markets and neither had them. Then I went to a 3rd market and also there was none. I was really pissed off because I really wanted them, so I decided to go to a big shopping center a bit further away. Just outside I noticed a bar and decided to have 1 beer because I was very thirsty and pissed off. Drinking a beer, some girl comes next to me sit and tells me that I look mad. I told her that I was after certain cereals and she told me that she actually has them. Took a few drinks in the bar, ended up at her place and the rest you know. She didn't have the cereals. I had recently moved and realized a few checks I was waiting on got sent to my old building. I still knew the building code and had my old mailbox key, so I went over to see if I could find the checks. While I'm in the lobby 2 people, a guy and a girl, are talking in one of the 1st floor apartment doorways. I'm trying to be as incognito as possible, but one of them asks if I live in the building. I explained that I used to, but recently moved and was trying to find some old mail. Then the guy says, maybe he will go to the show with you. So the girls tells me she is going to this show tonight, but her roommate bailed and she didn't want to go alone and asks if I want to go. I had never heard of the band, but I didn't have plans that night and was feeling saucy, so I told her I'd go. We have a drink in her apartment and then Uber to the show. Stand in line for about 45 minutes until we get to the bouncer and find out that it's one of those free shows where you have to RSVP to get in. She felt really bad. She dragged me all the way out there for nothing and suggested we go back to her place and regroup and decide what to do next. We end up back at her place and start drinking. Then her roommate asks if we want to smoke, so we do, and then we end up playing Overwatch with her roommate and eating tacos at like 3 in the morning. Then she said it was really late and said I could stay there if I wanted, and one thing led to another. Long story short, always make sure you get your mail forwarded to your current address, or don't, because then you might get laid. Hanging out with my best friend and a guy I thought had a crush on her. The three of us were cuddling, and he let it be known that he was trying to duck me, which led to us getting it on my bedroom floor while my friend was asleep. A few years ago I was at a bar with some friends and there was a few people in our group I hadn't met who were there. One of them was this really cute girl, but had this dead mile-long stare, like she was just looking into the abyss. Anyway, she goes out to have a smoke and I join her in having one, and we start talking. Few drinks later, and smoke breaks, I get the courage up to ask her out, to which she immediately replies, "No, but you can walk me home." No big deal. Maybe she just wants to be friends. Her place is on the way to mine, maybe a few blocks away, so being done drinking we gather our stuff and head out. She walks her bike, and we chat some more, get to her house, and she drops her bike on the ground and tells me to go inside. I rush inside, and she literally carolls me to the back of the couch. She was at least 1.5 feet shorter than me, and she shoves me over the couch and pounces on me. I'm pretty much in shock for the next bit as she just took what she wanted. Overall pretty good time. The next morning, I wake up and have to go work at my restaurant job on a Saturday morning. She then calls me a peasant for having to work on the weekends. Got into a short police chase. I looked best young for my age in HS. Someone saw me making out with my HSGF and thought it was an older woman taking advantage of a younger man, so they called it in. We drove off cause it was awkward being stared at, and next thing we know we are chased by police. They immediately pulled us over and interrogated us for like 2 minutes before we showed our IDs and were let go. Immediately went back to her place and had sex. Apparently it was thrilling for her or something. So by short police chase you mean you pulled over immediately? Way back around 1997, my college roommate's girlfriend brought her coworker out drinking one night, and my word for word rendition of Vanilla Ice's Ice Ice Baby turned out to be the panty dropper. Everyone was surprised that the young lady threw herself at me as if she were loaded on a trebuchet, including me. In my early 20s, 10 years ago, I had just been dumped by my first serious girlfriend and was sitting at home alone in the middle of the day feeling sorry for myself. The doorbell rings, and it's a girl about my age going door to door canvassing the neighborhood with flyers for some event. This was in Southern California in the middle of July, and it was easily over 100 degrees outside. After answering the door and taking a flyer from her, she asked if she could come inside to cool down for a while. She was sweating pretty profusely and didn't have any water to drink, so I felt sorry for her. I obliged and invited her in. We sat in the kitchen talking for a bit while I got her a glass of water. She noticed my morose state and asked if everything was okay. I told her that I had just been dumped by who I thought was the love of my life, and I was still in the process of processing or whatever. We kept talking about relationships and the like, and it turned out she had recently ended a relationship as well. She then asked me if there was anything she could do to help. Yes, she said it that way. I'm not the most observant guy when it comes to picking up signals from women, but the instant she uttered the word anything with that intonation, I knew it was on. I've never gotten a bone faster than in that 3 seconds it took us to run to my bedroom and start undressing each other. She stayed for about an hour. Luckily I had condoms left over from my ex-GF. We cleaned up afterwards and she left. We never exchanged info or saw each other ever again. I don't even remember asking what her name was, but it was definitely something I needed to help push me out of my funk. Playing Pokemon Go in a very rural area when I noticed a trainer imitating my username in the town's only gym. It was a rather long and specific username. Theirs was exactly the same with a 1 on the end, so I'm fairly certain they were imitating me. So I went on a quest around town to find this mystery person. Ended up having SX in my office. I'm doing some serious mental gymnastics trying to figure out how one thing led to another here. I believe you, as far-fetched as it all sounds. I left out some parts of the story to make it seem even more outrageous. I went around town looking for people that were playing and asking if they knew who that person was, but I got nowhere. A couple days later someone on the same team as the guy I was looking for had control of a gym and their username was just a phone number. Being the obsessive person that I am, I called that number. Turns out it was a girl who lives in the town I worked in. She didn't know who the imitator was, but she seemed interested in my quest, so she invited me to play that night with her and her friend. I did. We hit it off okay and had a fun night. The next day I was working a little late when she invited me out again. I told her I was still working, but she could come by until I finished up. She did and we ended up hooking up in my office after hours. Never found my mystery player. The copycat still eludes me. While I was hiking, I was wearing the most unflattering outfit. Hiking trousers. Hadn't had a shower in I don't know how long, so probably a little smelly, hairy greasy hair, no makeup and probably bags under my eyes. And I was camping in a tiny one-person tent, so not exactly practical to do anything in there. Arrived at the first town that had a supermarket in a couple of days, so I decided to stay on a campsite in town. Met a guy there on the campsite. He wasn't camping, but staying in one of those camping pods. We went for a drink together in a pub there, had another drink, then bought some more to drink, and shared that in his tiny cabin, as it was warm there. This was Scotland early April. We both got a little drunk. One thing led to another, and it was seriously some of the hottest sex I'd ever had, especially for a first time with someone I barely knew. Got kind of kinky too, and I'm still a little ashamed thinking back about how loud we were, so inappropriate. Definitely not expecting any of that on a hiking trip. Was fully asleep, nice and cozy in my bed, awoke feeling very good. As my tired eyes started to open I realized I was doing something unexpected. Saw my then girlfriend was also waking up, and her eyes were still sleepy and only part way open. It was the wee hours of the morning, and we woke each other up by having sex. Not sure who started it, but we were both happy it had happened. It was a great way to start the day. Scared me to the point I contemplated wearing a condom to bed for a while. No babies for me please. At least I know sleeping me has game.